Welcome to another episode of the AI-driven Swebbcast. The source content is all Swebb, but the interpretation and presentation is all AI. Swebb is a productive disruptor for leaders and teams in churches and marketplace organizations. His goal is to make you better first, make you a friend later. Swebb serves leaders and executive teams around the world, primarily focused on helping organizations maximize what they say they want to do. He drives you to execute on your expectations, even if it hurts your ego. He's not here to please everyone, nor does he seek validation. But if you're serious about elevating your leadership and team performance, you'll know where to find him. Connect with Swebb at swebb.fyi or on Instagram at swebbfyi.
Ready for some unexpected leadership lessons? This time, our deep dive takes us into a coaching call transcript.
Interesting choice of source material, right? You'd think we'd be analyzing, some CEO's memoir or something like that. But sometimes the best insights come from places you wouldn't expect.
I know, right? So in this case, we're basically listening in on a coaching session between a leader in the Netherlands and his coach. We're calling him Swebb for this deep dive.
Okay.
Now, you might be thinking, what does this have to do with me? What can I learn from some random coaching call?
Right.
But trust me on this one. There's some serious wisdom here. This stuff applies to all of us, whether you're managing a team, working on a project, or just trying to, level up in your own life.
Absolutely. What I find fascinating is how Swebb tackles this leader's challenges. You see, this leader wants to inspire growth, develop other leaders, but he's feeling stuck. He's running into a problem a lot of us face. How do you create real change when it feels like everyone's resisting?
It's like hitting a wall, right?
Exactly.
So how does Swebb tell him to approach this?
Well, he starts by emphasizing clarity, specifically when it comes to expectations and standards. He actually says, and I'm quoting here, "The main thing that I find to be the most helpful is working really hard to define your expectations and define your standards."
So basically get everyone on the same page about what you're actually trying to achieve.
Precisely. Think about it. We throw around words like growth or leadership all the time.
Yeah.
But do we ever really stop to define what they mean in practice?
I know I don't.
Swebb's point is that without clear definitions, you're building on shaky ground.
It's like trying to build a house without a blueprint.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Everyone ends up working on a different structure. And that's where this idea of leading by influence comes in. It's not enough to just have the title or the authority. True leadership comes from embodying the values and behaviors you want to see in others.
Actions speak louder than words.
That's it. You can talk about leadership all day long, but if you're not walking the walk, people can see right through it.
They're not going to buy it.
Exactly. And it's not just about telling people what to do. It's about showing them how it's done.
Right.
Swebb uses this example of how even some of the most influential figures in history took the time to, actually model leadership for those around them. They didn't just give information, they actively lived their teachings, offering feedback, sharing experiences along the way.
It's so much more powerful than just lecturing people or handing them a manual.
Absolutely. It's about creating a culture of mentorship and guidance.
Right.
Where leadership development happens through consistent effort, honest communication, and shared experiences.
So it's not a quick fix.
Yeah.
It's a long-term investment in the people you lead.
Exactly. And speaking of long-term investment, that brings us to another point Swebb makes. It's this idea that leadership shouldn't be confined to just one specific area of your life.
That was me.
He talks about how a lot of people kind of compartmentalize their lives.
Yeah.
They might act like a leader at work, but then totally disconnect from those principles in other parts of their lives.
Right.
Like they're not really integrating those qualities into everything they do.
So it's more about like a way of being than just a role you play.
Exactly. Leadership isn't something you just switch on and off. It should be a part of who you are in every aspect of your life, not just work.
It's like that walking the walk thing again. You can't just fake it.
Right. And this applies to more than just leadership. Think about how often do we learn something valuable in one area of our lives, but completely fail to apply it somewhere else?
Oh, all the time. Like I might read a book about productivity and get super motivated to, organize my work life. But then my personal life is still a complete disaster.
Perfect example. Swebb saying we need to make those connections. The lessons we learn in one context should inform how we approach everything else.
So how do we do that? How do we actually bridge those gaps?
Well, this is where he brings up momentum mapping.
Momentum mapping. Okay, I never heard of that.
Yeah, it's this idea of understanding and leveraging the natural rhythms of the world around us.
Okay, give me an example.
Think about the times of year when people are naturally more, energetic and motivated. We were talking about New Year's resolutions earlier. That's a perfect example.
Right. People are making changes, setting goals.
Exactly. It's like tapping into this collective surge of energy.
And then there are other times when people are more likely to be, burnt out or just checked out.
Exactly. Like right before a big holiday or during the summer.
Totally.
So Swebb's saying instead of fighting against those natural ebbs and flows, we should learn to work with them.
So go with the flow.
Kind of. It's about being more strategic with your efforts. Instead of just pushing forward with the same intensity all the time.
You adjust your approach based on what's already happening around you.
Exactly. It's like riding a wave. You're not trying to control the ocean.
Right.
You're just trying to ride it.
Okay. That makes sense.
And you can apply this momentum mapping idea to pretty much anything. Think about how you could use it in your own life. Maybe you launch a new project when you have the most energy. Or maybe you schedule those tough conversations for a time when you know you're feeling more calm and centered.
That's so practical. I love it.
It's about working smarter, not harder.
Right. So we've talked about defining expectations, leading by influence, integrating leadership into all areas of our lives, and this momentum mapping thing. Is there anything else Swebb talks about in this session?
Yeah, actually, we also get a little peek into his investment philosophy.
Oh, interesting. Okay, tell me more about that.
So his investment approach is all about the long game. He focuses on companies with strong leadership and what he calls tailwinds, basically factors that give them a competitive edge.
So instead of chasing those quick wins, he's looking for companies that are built to last.
Exactly. And this really ties in with his whole philosophy of leadership and growth. It's all about playing the long game, whether it's personal development or building something that's sustainable.
It's that consistency, right? It's like his investment strategy is a reflection of how he approaches everything else.
It really is. And he gives some pretty practical tips that you can actually apply to your own investing. Like he talks about diversification.
Right. Don't put all your eggs in one basket.
Exactly. And he also talks about not panicking when the market fluctuates. You got to have a clear strategy and stick to it, even when things get a little crazy.
Yeah, it's so easy to get caught up in the day-to-day ups and downs.
Right. But you got to keep your eye on the long-term goal.
Which is a pretty good lesson for life in general, don't you think? It's easy to get distracted by the latest trends or whatever's shiny and new. But real success, whether it's in your career, your relationships, or even your finances, comes from having that vision and staying focused.
It's about discipline and consistency. Don't let that fear of missing out drive your decisions.
I love it. This has been such a great deep dive. It's amazing how much we can learn from just one coaching call, right?
I know, right? You never know where you'll find wisdom.
So for everyone listening, here's something to think about. What are some of the tailwinds in your life or work? What gives you a unique advantage? And how can you use that to reach your goals? Remember, it's about playing that long game, staying focused, and not letting the little setbacks get you down.
Some great food for thought.
Are you going to do something with what you just heard? Or are you just trying to be entertained? Share this episode, then connect with Swebb. Bring him to your headquarters or visit him in Austin, Texas. You, doing all you said you'd do, that's what the church and the world needs.